The FBI was active to catch him, not realizing he has the perfect plan to overturn his story on that particular day. Welcome back to Paramount Recapped. I don't have many subscribers, but your single comment is a ray of hope to motivate me. So the movie kicks off at this special place that helps kids on the autism spectrum. A military guy shows up there with his wife and their young son, Chris. They're hoping to get some help for him. The dad's a real no-nonsense type, super strict and all about structure, probably from all his years in the military. He explains that Chris struggles to adjust because they're always moving from one place to another thanks to his job. It's been tough on the kid, and it's obvious he's not able to settle down anywhere. The people at the center tell the parents that they can take Chris in and give him a steady environment, which might make it easier for him to handle his autism. But the dad isn't having any of it. He thinks that protecting Chris from the outside world would only do him harm in the long run. His attitude is pretty harsh. Basically, the world's a rough place and Chris needs to learn how to survive in it as it is. No shortcuts, no special treatment. While all this is happening, little Chris is off to the side, sitting on the floor, quietly working on a puzzle. He's rocking back and forth and softly muttering a rhyme, Solomon Grundy. Born on a Monday, he's completely focused, but then he gets frustrated when he finds out one piece is missing. It throws him off completely. You can see the panic setting in. But then, a young girl nearby notices what's happening and gently hands him the missing piece. Just like that, Chris calms down. It's a quiet moment, but it shows how much things like patterns and structure matter to him. His mind needs things to be just right to feel okay. Flash forward years later. Chris is now a grown man, working as an accountant. He's meeting with a couple who are going through financial trouble. He's calm and reserved, but super sharp. He walks them through some strategies to save money on their taxes, clearly knowing exactly what he's doing. They're so impressed and thankful that the husband even invites him over to their property to do some shooting practice. At the same time, over in D.C., a woman named Mary Beth Medina gets called into the office of Ray King, who works high up at the Treasury Department. He compliments her work, but brings up a tough question. Why hasn't she advanced further in her career? Before she can really explain, he hits her with a bombshell. He knows about her sealed juvenile record. Apparently, she's been hiding some shady stuff from her past. Now he's using it against her. Either she helps him with a new investigation or she's out of a job. The job? Figuring out who this mysterious accountant is. The guy's been managing money for some seriously dangerous people, and not just cooking their books. He's also been eliminating threats. King gives Medina a month to find out who he is or face the consequences. Back to Chris. He's at home, alone, sticking to his strict daily schedule. He cooks himself a basic meal, then goes through this strange bedtime routine that looks more like torture than relaxation. He cranks up loud heavy metal music, flashes strobe lights, and uses a rod to painfully massage his legs. It's like he's trying to overload his senses before bed. At some point during all this, he remembers a heartbreaking moment from his past. The Christmas when his mom walked out on the family. It's a tough memory, and after taking his meds, he finally drifts off to sleep. The next day, he takes up the offer from the couple he helped and heads to their place for some target practice. He picks up the gun and hits every single target with insane accuracy. The husband is blown away by how good he is with a firearm. After that, Chris makes his way to what looks like a regular storage unit, but it's not your typical space. Inside, he's got a hidden trailer that's basically a mini fortress. It's filled with expensive artwork, collectible items, and stacks of cash in different currencies. Oh, and tons of weapons. It's clear this guy's life is way more complicated than just crunching numbers. He lies down to rest, and another memory hits him. This one from when he was in prison. His cellmate back then had taught him all about laundering money and even gave him some tips on how to deal with people socially, something Chris really struggles with. Suddenly, he's woken up by a call. It's a woman with a British accent, one of his contacts who helps manage his assignments. She suggests he start working with more normal clients to avoid attracting attention. Chris isn't thrilled about the idea, but he agrees. So now he finds himself at a robotics company that builds prosthetic limbs. He's been hired because the company accountant, Dana, found some irregularities in their finances. Money's gone missing, and they want him to investigate. Chris accepts without hesitation and tells them he'll start the next morning. Meanwhile, Medina is digging through files and comes across a photo that just might show the accountant's face. She sends it to the facial recognition team, hoping they can match it to someone. Over in Switzerland, a man named Brack shows up. He's a different kind of problem solver. The kind who shows up uninvited, sneaks in your car, and points a gun at your head while politely telling you to stop messing with people's money. He makes it clear, no more scamming or there will be consequences. Back at the robotics company, Chris walks into his workspace and finds Dana asleep at the conference table. It's a bit awkward. He wakes her up, and she quickly introduces herself, apologizing for dozing off. She figures they'll be working closely together, but Chris shuts that down fast. He makes it clear he works best alone. Later on, during a press event, Medina gets a call. Homeland Security's found something. Not only do they confirm the face, but they've also matched it to a recording from one of the accountant's past jobs. It's unsettling. You can hear a man pleading for his life right before being killed. Even creepier, Chris is softly chanting that same nursery rhyme during the act. Back at the office, Dana joins Chris for lunch and tries to make conversation. He tries to respond, but small talk clearly isn't his thing. He soon returns to the conference room and dives into work, covering whiteboards and even windows with scribbled math equations. It's like he sees the whole world in numbers. After a while, he figures it out. Someone's been moving company funds into a fake account. He calls Dana in to show her his findings. She's impressed, but just as they're digging deeper, one of the company's board members storms in demanding answers. Chris says he's not done yet and needs more time. Somewhere else in the city, Brax pays another late-night visit, this time to a different shareholder. The man's diabetic, and Brax gives him two options: inject himself and make it look like suicide, letting his wife collect the insurance money, or resist and get both of them killed. The guy chooses the easy way out. The following morning, Chris returns to the office to find the janitors scrubbing his work off the windows. He panics, but the company's owner walks in and delivers some news. The man Chris had been investigating apparently killed himself after admitting to stealing money. The boss tells Chris the case is closed and to move on. Chris, though, looks frustrated and clearly doesn't feel like he's done yet. That night, back home, he goes through his brutal self-discipline routine again. The lights, the music, the self-inflicted pain. It's like he's punishing himself, trying to keep control over his own mind. The next morning, he heads out again, and this time he notices a car tailing him. He doesn't react. Instead, he goes back to the couple's property for more target practice. While he's there, old memories come flooding back. Scenes from his childhood when his dad forced him and his brother into intense training sessions. The trainer would stop, but their dad kept pushing them to fight until they were both wrecked. He believed that toughness was the only way to survive. Meanwhile, inside the house, things take a dark turn. Two guys have broken in and are holding the couple hostage. They tell the wife to lure Chris inside. But as one of the thugs walks her to the front door, Chris is already watching from a distance. He pulls the trigger and drops the guy with a single, perfect shot. One of the thugs, clearly freaked out and not thinking straight, shoved Chris and Dana into a truck, slammed the door, and floored it, trying to escape the whole mess. But Chris wasn't letting that happen. He whipped out his gun and started firing at the vehicle, and after a few well-aimed shots, the truck screeched to a stop. Chris yanked the thug out of the driver's seat and used his belt to choke him, demanding answers. The guy, gasping for breath, swore up and down that he didn't know who was calling the shots. He was just told to kill Chris and Dana. No names, no explanations. Once Chris got that useless piece of info, he didn't hesitate to finish the job. With no time to waste, Chris rushed to Dana's apartment. As soon as he pulled up, his gut told him something was wrong. He spotted a sketchy-looking guy shadowing Dana into the building and slipping into the elevator right behind her. Chris took the stairs, moving quickly and quietly. Meanwhile, Dana had just gotten into her place when two so-called delivery guys knocked on the door, claiming they had a package for her. She opened it, only to get ambushed. The fake delivery guys forced their way in, trying to overpower her. But Dana wasn't going down easy. She fought back and managed to lock herself in the bathroom. Chris showed up just in time. He broke into the apartment and handled the attackers without breaking a sweat. Once they were down, he told Dana there was no time to explain. They had to get out immediately. Elsewhere, the man behind the curtain, the mastermind running the thugs, heard that his guys had been taken out by the accountant. That's what they called Chris. Chris took Dana to a secret trailer he used as a hideout. He told her to stay outside while he got things ready inside. But curiosity got the better of her. She stepped in and was completely stunned. The place was like something out of a spy movie. Guns, stacks of money, important-looking files, and high-end gadgets everywhere. Naturally, she started asking him a million questions, but Chris gave her vague, half-baked answers, staying as mysterious as ever. Meanwhile, Medina, the analyst on Chris's trail, got an update about the audio clip she had submitted for analysis. The experts told her that the man in the clip might have gone through something traumatic as a child or could be dealing with a neurological issue. Apparently, he chanted nursery rhymes when under extreme stress, a clue pointing towards something deeper. Determined to solve the puzzle, Medina headed to the IRS and began matching up aliases connected to odd income patterns, trying to find accountant. Chris and Dana later checked into a high-end hotel, hoping to lay low for a while. Dana, still trying to figure Chris out, couldn't hold back her questions anymore. She straight up asked him how he learned to fight like that. Chris opened up a bit, explaining that his father had been strict, ex-military, and made sure Chris knew how to protect himself from a young age. He also admitted that he was on the autism spectrum, which made it tough for him to bond with people, even though he really wanted to. Their conversation got intense, and when Dana leaned in to kiss him, Chris pulled back. Right then, something clicked in his mind. The whole robotics company scam they'd been investigating? The crooks were sneaking money out and reinvesting it to make even more profit down the line. It was deeper than he thought. Later on, Chris was tailing Brax, one of the big players in the scheme, down a street. Brax spotted him and started firing. Chris didn't flinch and kept on chasing, eventually ending up at a shareholder's hotel room. But he was too late. The shareholder had already been shot and killed. Back with Medina, she kept digging through records and finally hit gold. She uncovered the accountant's real identity, Chris Wolf. Turns out he worked at a small accounting firm and used cash-heavy businesses he owned to hide his earnings. But here's the shocker. He wasn't keeping the money. Most of it was being donated to organizations researching brain science. Excited, Medina called her boss, King, with the update. Later that night, Chris returned to the hotel and found Dana asleep on the couch. Seeing her triggered another memory from his childhood. This one was of his father making him and his brother beat up a group of bullies. That memory weighed on him, and realizing just how dangerous his world had become, Chris quietly packed his things and left the hotel without waking Dana. He needed to keep her out of harm's way. At the same time, King and Medina led a team to raid Chris's home. What they found was unusual to say the least. An arsenal of weapons, top-of-the-line security, and all kinds of suspicious materials. After the search ended, Brax, now working for the head of the robotics company, was assigned to install new security systems at the boss's mansion, just in case Chris showed up. After the raid, King and Medina had a quiet moment. King urged her to open up about her past. Medina confessed she once tried to kill a drug dealer who had been selling to her sister. She said she didn't regret it. King responded by sharing his own story, how tracking the accountant had nearly broken him over the years. He even revealed that he'd once come face-to-face with Chris after a deadly incident at a hotel. Chris had held a gun to his head and asked, "Are you a good father?" When King answered yes, Chris had spared him. That moment pushed King to think about retiring. But then a British woman had called him out of the blue, tipping him off about an illegal operation. The call pulled him back in. Since then, she had been his informant. He even told Medina about how Chris's old cellmate, a money launderer, had been tortured and killed after getting out of prison. When Chris heard about that, he snapped, broke out, and went on a rampage. Years later, he and his dad attended his mom's funeral, but were asked to leave. Things got violent, and when a security guard fired a shot at Chris, his father stepped in front of the bullet and died. Medina, still trying to process everything, asked why King was telling her all this. King said he wanted her to be the one taking those mysterious phone calls after he retired in a few months. Not long after that, Chris's landline rang, and Medina picked up. The British woman was on the other end, giving her a new lead about the robotics company. Meanwhile, at the mansion, Brax was already on edge when Chris finally made his move. Brax sent out his crew to stop him, but Chris took them out like it was nothing. He even spared one guy just to get the layout of the house. Watching it all through security cameras, Brax quickly realized something was off. When he heard Chris humming that same nursery rhyme from their childhood, it hit him. This wasn't just some threat. This was his brother. Shocked, Brax ordered his men to stand down. The brothers faced off, and Brax let out all his pent-up anger. He accused Chris of abandoning him and blamed him for their dad's death. Chris let him vent, even let him land a few punches. Once Brax cooled off, Chris took control of the situation, holding Brax at gunpoint just to calm things down. They finally had a real conversation, raw and honest. Just as they were starting to reconnect, the boss of the robotics company barged in, yelling at Brax for not handling Chris. Without saying a word, Chris shot the guy dead. Before they parted ways, Chris promised Brax they'd catch up properly in a week. Somewhere else, at a neuroscience center, A couple showed up looking for help with their son who had autism. While wandering the halls, the boy met a girl named Justine, the same one who had helped young Chris solve puzzles back in the day. She was nonverbal but used a high-tech device to talk. When she demonstrated how it worked, her voice was revealed to be the same British woman who had been helping Chris all along. In the last scene, Dana was back in her apartment, tidying up after all the madness. She got a surprise delivery. Inside the package was a painting. At first, it looked ordinary, but when she peeled back the outer layer, she found a priceless piece of art. One she remembered seeing in Chris's trailer. It was his quiet way of letting her know he was still out there, and he hadn't forgotten about her.